Islam, Islam, Islam. And welcome to MHHS Eyes Wide Open. This is your host, Anita Ill. And please, let's see. I'm just adjusting my earpiece and switching the earpieces. All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome to MHHS Eyes Wide Open. This is your host, Anita Ill, along with my co-host, RVBey. Islam, are you there? Islam, Ross, are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
All righty.
I'm here. Can you hear me now?
Oh, I hear you now. Yes, I do.
Oh. I had a problem with the earpiece. Thought I had the right one in, but I guess I don't. I'll have to change that. But at any rate, can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can hear you just fine.
Very good. Islam, peace, and much love to everyone.
Yes.
Now,
is Miss joining us?
You know what? He had to go on a trip, and he may make it in. He's around close, so I trust he will. He's been doing some things lately.
All right.
But, yeah.
All right, wonderful. And we will not be having Cujo Adwail tonight. He has some family things that he needs to take care of. So, it is the mothers.
Wow.
And a wonderful thing, and it is. This is, let's see, let me think, where are we in the month? Whew, the month is flying by so fast. This is the second week of the new month in the Gregorian calendar year. But it's the second week of the month. That means tomorrow we will be at the National Theater to do a live class in the flesh. If you're in the area, stop in. If you're not, you can call back in radio number and you can listen. All right. So before we continue, I want to say, let's see, Ramadan Mubarak. I hope I said it right. To everybody who is celebrating Ramadan, I believe tomorrow is the last day. I think.
Wow.
It's tomorrow.
Yes,
tomorrow's the last day.
And the new moon is tomorrow.
Tomorrow is the last day of Ramadan, and Thursday is Eid. So, Ramadan Mubarak to everybody who is observing Ramadan, and for those of you who are not observing Ramadan, Assalamu alaikum. And for everyone that is joining us here tonight, thank you for joining us. For those who are listening around the world, thank you for joining, building, growing. And I trust that this information helps you to better handle your affairs, because that's what it's all about. So, let's get
Before you get started, I need to test this other. Can you tell me whether this is working? Hold on. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I just had to put in another headpiece, and I just wanted to say the new moon is tomorrow also, and in Islam we always deal with the new moon, so it's a great time about what you want to do and start doing it with the new moon. Islam.
Tomorrow? Oh, that's right. Tomorrow is the new moon. That's correct.
Yes,
that's exactly correct. That's why tomorrow is in the new moon. To what I looked up, the new moon comes in and it's strange because the new moon comes in at like 7 something. I took a picture of it because I was like, how do you do that? How do you have a moon? I don't know why I thought that, but I was thinking, how do you have a moon in the evening? But you do have a moon in the evening.
Hey, that's the clock of the universe. The clock of the universe is different. It's all about the tick-tock and the degrees.
The moon comes in tomorrow at 1943 seconds, and that makes it 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 28, 43. And that's, and let's see, you break your fast tomorrow about 8:28 or 8:29. So tomorrow is the last fast night. And then the new moon comes in at 8:43, and then Eid is Thursday, I guess, or Eid begins, I guess, when the new moon comes in, and that's an official, I guess, officially when Eid begins, I guess, when the new moon comes in. So that's interesting to know.
Great time.
Yes. So,
all right.
Just a little bit of, culture and custom of the Moors as it relates to Ramadan. If you've looked at the Treaty of Peace and Friendship, it was done in the month of Ramadan. So it was done in not this month typically, but if we go back, go back to the year, I want to say 1786, when the treaty was signed. Right next to it, it tells you it was done in the month of Ramadan, and I believe the year was like 1299 or 1200, something like that.
1200, yeah.
Yeah. So the wonderful thing the interesting thing about Ramadan is it's different every year. I'm still trying to get familiar with that and wrap my brain around it, but it's different every year because it goes by the lunar calendar. Islam goes by the lunar calendar, and the Gregorian calendar goes by the solar calendar, or it's a solar calendar. But if you understand the science, you know why Islam goes by the lunar calendar. And science. But so let's get into tonight's broadcast. Tonight's broadcast is entitled "Who is a Member of the Union and Who is Not?" Because there's so much misinformation and confusion about the United States, what it is not, their authority, who they, and see, this is the key right here. Who are they subordinate to? That's the key. Because if you don't comprehend that they are subordinate to somebody, then you might put yourself in a subordinate position. And, and it appears as though that is what's going on, mainly because of lack of information. And that's understandable because with all of the misinformation that has been going on for so long, not only do Moors not comprehend who is who, but there are those modern Europeans who do not comprehend who is who. And so, you have this great confusion going on right now because everyone is claiming something that may not apply to them. And so, and this is not just Moors that's doing this. This is modern Europeans as well. For example, modern Europeans claim a lot of the seats, the noble seats of Moors, they really don't belong in those seats because they are not the Aboriginal indigenous people. And when I say they're claiming it, I don't mean they're literally, it's not that they're really claiming it, but they make a claim to being like, if you understand the Reconstruction, which took place, I want to say, 1865, then you comprehend that they went through all of the historical pictures or and they changed the features of the paintings. They changed the complexions of the paintings. They added days to the calendar to factor themselves in. So that when I say they claim, that's what I mean. Now, they run around and they call them...
Usurp is a better word.
It's not really usurping because if we knew here's the thing. That only flies on the North American continent. Because outside of this continent, everybody knows who is who. It's just the Moors of North America that don't comprehend who is who. And it's only the Moors of North America that goes through this habit of constantly wanting proof that they are who they are. No other nation does that. And, some people may say, oh, well, it's because we've been mentally conditioned. Yeah, well, everybody knows that. Everybody. There's not a melanated person that doesn't know that they have some missing information based on, this mental conditioning. We don't. This is why Woodrow said we need our own schools, because as long as our children are going to somebody else's school, they're going to get somebody else's story. They're going to get his story, not her heritage. They're going to get his story, not her heritage.
Or her age. I say it's her age. Heritage is her age.
Right. So
ancient.
This is why we're by this at this juncture in our return back, we should have had a school somewhere. Somewhere there should have been a school, but there isn't. So these are things that we need to establish. These are things that we need to set up. It's all well and good to try and save the people who are here, but the prophet said, this is for the young and the yet unborn. He said it. This is for the young and the yet. This is for the young and the yet unborn. That means that right now we should be setting up for the young and the yet unborn, and then he said, get it into them. All right. So what all of this? Oh, we got to save the people. What we need to focus our energy on is saving the future generation, the young and the yet born, because those are the ones that we need to get it into. And what we're supposed to be establishing right now, instead of having these every year, it's a new pissing contest. Every year, it's a new pissing contest. Somebody is having some sort of an ego conniption every year. And you know what that means? That means it's a distraction. It means that we're not focusing on establishing something for the young and the yet unborn, which is what the prophet told us to do. We're caught up in commerce. So let's take a look at this, because people talk and act and behave as though, wow, the modern Europeans came here yesterday, and they say, look, they're doing commerce. Yeah. Well, that's why they came over here. Too. That's why everybody comes here. Mm-hmm. That's why you have Toyota. That's why you have Mitsubishi. That's why you have Volkswagen. That's why everybody comes here. This is the hub of activity. Everybody comes here to engage in commerce. That's the chronology of events. This is not new, right? So let's not get oh my God, they're doing commerce. Call it treaty of peace and friendship for a reason. Okay, all right. Who is the member of the union? Who is a member of the union and who is not? You see, because you have to understand that the United States is a union company. This is not me speaking. This is not any personal opinion. This is in the record. And this union was established in 1774. In the record. Prior to 1774, there were a whole bunch of companies across the land. All right? And these companies initially started out, like we said, the Virginia Company, everything comes out of the Virginia Company. Today, these companies are called states. It doesn't change the fact that they are still companies. Get that into your dealing with companies. All right? Now, when the Constitution was written, an invitation was sent out to all the companies. All of the companies. And those companies that agreed to sign on to the provisions of the Constitution, they are today called states. The ones who did not sign on, they are called municipal corporations, or they're municipal companies. They're companies that are not harmony. They did not sign on to the provisions of the Constitution. What does that mean? They can't be a part of the union. What does the union do exactly? Well, it's right in the Constitution. The union is the federal arm of all companies. They handle all international affairs. This is why Trump, where the heck is Trump? He's not on this North American continent right now. Somewhere in, doing establishing some sort of a business for the, just trying to think. I'm trying to find out. I heard it. I don't remember where I heard.
Oh,
Korea.
He's making a truce. Okay. Yeah, making a truce.
He's in Korea,
hands,
I believe.
Doing some stuff. Yeah. It's all business.
All right, so he's in Korea. Why is he in Korea? Because Korea is not on the North American landmass, and Korea, even if it was on the North American landmass, it would be considered international business. So the president of the union company, their job is to go out and take care of the international business. All right, so that's why he does what he does. Now, and if you look at, the union, they make sure that their companies can bring whatever product they have or can generate to market. All right? And if anybody tries to create, impede their ability to take the product to market, then the union will institute some safeguards. Now, there's a program on Netflix, I want to say, I think it's called Rotten. And if you watch it, I believe it's called Rotten. If you watch it, it's like 5 or 6 episodes, all right? And one of them is entitled Honey. Now, you should watch this. In that episode, it shows you how the union ensures that their company can compete in the marketplace. And if you pay attention in that particular episode, it shows you how China went on an all-out campaign to undermine the honey industry, and the union wasn't having it. And it shows you what they did to safeguard their ability to compete in the marketplace. And so when you see that, you see what the purpose of the union is, what they do, and you get an idea. Okay, yeah, it's the first episode, and it's entitled Lawyers, Guns, and Honey. And it reads, with demand for honey soaring just as bees are dying off in record numbers, hidden additives, hive fees, and other shady tactics are on the rise. So check that episode out. If you watch that, it will show you exactly what the function of the union company is and how they effectuate it. All right? So check it out, because they're not lying in what they are supposed to. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing. All right? So then, what does it mean, this union company? And where did the union, get their infrastructure from? What is it patterned on? Everything that these companies, i.e. states, do, they do for one reason and one reason only. They came over here to engage in commerce, and they are here to this day to continue engaging in commerce. Now, the people's problem, and it's a mental conditioning, but the purpose that I come to free you from your mental enslavement, your mental enslavement, because the answers are all around you. But specifically, they're in the writings of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. So what is this mental enslavement that people have regarding the union company and its members? That was who is the member of the union and who is not. Well, if you know anything about unions, then you know that the union is established, and then it sends out invitations to who would like to be a member. You see, because people think that they are involved in commerce, or they're being forced into commerce, or there's some commodity, I'm not saying that there may not be some truth to that. Can never combat the violation of a human being's liberty by taking a commercial route. It will never, ever, ever work. Just like when it's the whole definition and meaning in case law on ultraviolet. Most people, they don't even understand, they don't even know about this term ultraviolet. Ultraviolet means that there is no contract that could ever be had, flesh and blood human being. Now, some people might want to run out and say, oh, I'm going to use that in my grid. Nope, you don't want to do that. You want to do a little bit more studying, because it's a lot more simpler than that. Everybody is running around here and they're like, oh, I'm going to use USC code, United States code, and I'm going to prove that they're doing this, that, and the other. Well, guess what? Code, as my Valera has always said, statutes, ordinances, and code do not apply to human beings. Statutes, ordinances, and code is simply policies and procedures of the company that make those policies and procedures. You can never, ever, ever, ever use the policies and the procedures of a company to slay the violators that work for that company who has taken liberty with your human rights. You're never going to do it. It's not possible. That's why we have that illustrious document called the Constitution. That's why we have it. But you know what? Even if we didn't have it, you got to know. What does it mean, the union company, and where did they, the union, get their infrastructure from? Where did they get their infrastructure from? You think they came over here as illiterate as they were, and they sat down and they drafted up this infrastructure all by themselves? Do you really believe that? If you believe that, you need to go back to the archives of the 15, 16, 1700s, and you need to read just what happened. Sure wasn't the nobles. And the Slavics couldn't read or write. And if you go back into some of their handwritten documents, you see that they couldn't write very well. They didn't know too many words. And, you know, you have to see, I've been reading I learned to read terrible handwriting very long ago, like, you know, because I used to have to, you know, translate or transcribe doctor's orders, and doctors are some of the worst. They have some of the worst handwriting I have ever seen. So these writings of, you know, the Slavic back in the 1600s, you know, it's along the same vein. But once you start reading them, you kind of sort of a hang of how they write. And so you can figure it out. But what it demonstrates is that there is no way on this green earth that the Slavic came over here as slaves, because that's Slavic and slaves, anonymous. You know, Slavic is the original word, but it's Slavic, it's a foreign word, and the English translation of Slavic is slave, all right? Infrastructure from? They got it from us. Documented right in their records. They thanked us profusely for lending them our, what is it? Law of the peace, law of the great peace. So when they say they adopted the Constitution, that is an infrastructure. And so where did that infrastructure come from? It came from the Aboriginal indigenous people that was already here. Patterned off of. The Constitution is patterned off of our infrastructure.
Mm-hmm.
So we, you know, people think, oh, yeah, you know, they see words like American and they see Republic, and then you got somebody running around here talking about they're going to restore the United States of America Republic. Okay, United States is the name of the company and was established in 1774. And it was established in America, which really is Al-Morocco, which is Morocco, which is really Masjid al-Aqsa, Morocco's farthest west. It is a republic. What is a republic? All right? What is a republic? America, an American, is not a nationality. Not even the name of this landmass. So, but it is a derivative of Al-Morocco. But
That's
Al-Morocco is talking about Morocco.
Morocco.
So we are not Americans. We are what they say we are in the treaty. We are Moor. We do not have a republic and never needed a republic because a republic is a representative form of government, and Moors never represent themselves. They present themselves.
So they never
because
need a representation.
They know how to, exactly. If you look back in the chronology of events that have taken place over many, many years, we had a product, merchandise, and we would take that merchandise to market, and we would negotiate a price. Some people would call it haggling. I can tell you outside of this landmass, if you don't haggle or negotiate the price that is told to you, you're considered illiterate, stupid. Because haggling a price is considered an art. You're supposed to haggle the price. I can tell you, my family grew much vegetables and fruits and things, and they would take that to market, and they didn't consult anybody to do that. They didn't consult with anyone to do that. Hear what I'm saying? They presented themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And see, this is why our people always are in a precarious position, because they don't want to let go of this modern European thinking. The position of the Slavic is not the position of the Moor.
Mm.
The position of the Slavic, if you pay attention to the documentation, is one of subordination to the Moor. Why? Because they are in our land using our resources. And the only reason that there is an appearance of reversal of role, because Moors want to consistently interject themselves into the position of the Slavic instead of taking their place as the Moor. And it is pretty much because of lack of information. Nationality said, my people suffer from lack of knowledge.
No, Yahshua said that.
And this, Yahshua, but Noble Drew said it as well.
He said it too in his own way, yes. Yes.
Every prophet that has come here has said the same thing. My people lack, my people suffer from lack of knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Every prophet has said the same thing. And so we need to, and then Noble Drew, the prophet Noble Drew, what did he say? I come to take you out of your mental enslavement. But just like chapter 2 says, the people don't want the light. The light is too stern. But the prophet said, hey, my people are a hard-hearted people, and they ain't never did nothing except at the point of a sword.
Point of a sword.
And that's what's going on right now. People are standing up and they're crying, oh my God, the prisons are full of the people of Moors, and we need to do something about that. Look, number one, if you are a Moor, you've got to know that Moorish science always always, always right and exact. What does that mean? That means the universe don't make mistakes. Everything that happens was supposed to happen. And everything that happens is a lesson for the individual who is either experiencing it or becomes aware of it. That's the science. You cannot escape that. You can cry all you want to, but that is the reality of the situation. So what does that mean? It means that we need to look at what it is that we manifested to say you are a Moor, and negate chapter 1 of the Holy Quran where it says man is mine. Man is mine. What does that mean? That means that you're manifesting your reality every second of the day. So if you are manifesting something that you do not want and do not like, that means you have got to check yourself. That's where the old adage, man's business is about reflection, comes in. Because if you were reflecting, you would see how these things have come upon you. Didn't Job say, my fears have come upon me? Why did his fears come upon him? Because that's all he was thinking about. Right? That's all he was thinking about. And in chapter 1, it says, man is mine. So if all you thinking about is the various fears that may come up, now how do you get around that? You got to know this science. Because right now, people are getting into situations because, number one, they lack knowledge. And number two, they lack the time to get it. What does that mean? That means that it doesn't mean that the time is not there for them. It just means that there are people who are encouraging you to do things you're not ready to do. You're not capable of standing on or defending. I know. Because you know what? In 2008, there were those same people doing the same thing to me, and they almost got me. Almost got me. But if it wasn't for this Moorish Heritage and History School, they might have gotten me. But this information had me slowing down, doing the necessary studying, renewing a registration or a driver's license so that you would have the time to study, to find out who your attackers are, and to draft up all the necessary writs and all the necessary inquiries that you would need to do so that you would be positioned in a place where you are prepared. Not flying by the seat of your pants and calling on who knows what, where to come save you from your own manifestation. What kind of craziness is that? It's only until you're almost burnt out that you realize you can't save anybody from what they created with their mind. You can have the most wonderful writ, and you can have the most wonderful intention, and you can have the most wonderful conversations with these wonderful foreigners on this wonderful land. But if the person that manifested this continues to manifest the opposite of what you are trying to perpetuate, you're going to fail. That is the science that is Moorish science. That is the principles and the laws of the universe. Now, doesn't mean that we cannot support one another. but you can't manifest an alternate reality than what is in somebody else's mind. Not possible. You can only support. That means that, if they're studying and they appear to be weakening, your job is to, encourage them. If they sound or act like they're about to give up, your job is to encourage them and let them know you got this. Because you do. Don't weaken. Don't give in. Keep on doing the studying. Keep on challenging, meaning challenging not them, because it's not really about challenging modern Europeans. It's really about challenging yourself. These things that happen to us, they are our lessons. Chapter 2 says, soldier never knows his strength without a foe. So why are we surprised when the foe shows up? I'm not saying it's a nice foe. I'm not saying it's nice when the foe shows up. I'm not saying it's nice. I'm just saying we need to be prepared. We need to know who is who and what is what. And we need to stop acting like the fact that these people are here doing commerce is a surprise. Do you know before the treaty with Great Britain, we was in a treaty with France? France was here. The Portuguese were here. The Dutch was here before Great Britain because we have a treaty with the Dutch Republic. And the only reason that Great Britain was able to hold down such a large tract of land was because they shipped over the Slavics. But the Dutch Republic didn't have Slavics. And if they did, they certainly didn't have them in the numbers that Great Britain did. So essentially what happened was Great Britain did a hostile takeover and took over all of the Dutch companies. That's why today you still got the Bronx, you got Brooklyn, you got Nassau. These were originally Dutch companies. New York was called New Amsterdam. And they changed it to New York after the Duke of York, brother to Charles II of Great Britain. These are things we need to know. That's like right now you have Trump. He's the president of the Union States, right? They do hostile takeovers all the time because it's about commerce. Mm-hmm. But you cannot interject yourself into a commercial activity and use commercial policy and think that you're going to get some sort of human rights remedy. The two don't go together.
Mm-hmm.
And they're never going to go together.
But people are certainly trying to make that happen. They think,
yes, they are.
Even under the treaty, without understanding that the treaty, because that's the big deal, the treaty and the consular courts, you have to have a treaty of subordinates. Moors have never been subordinate. Why would we want to reduce ourselves to being subordinate now and treat ourselves as if we are the foreigners doing commerce? That doesn't even make sense.
Exactly.
Because that's all that is about. That treaty and the consular posts that were set up. Like sometimes I think people will read, well, we're going to handle the civic issues here too. But they're only talking about those of the United States of America who were doing commerce They're not talking about Moors.
Well, let's talk about this word, civil.
Why there are foreign relations?
Let's talk about that too. Foreign,
No, I'm saying all of that is under, like when they look it up, they'll see it's right there. Foreign relations. We're not the foreigners. Yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. Now,
right.
Because it's always about some sort of commercial activity, the position of the people who are functioning in a non-commercial capacity, if you are going down the street to buy a loaf of bread, that is a non-commercial capacity. If you're going to spend time with your family, that is a non-commercial activity. If you're going to care for your family, that is a non-commercial activity. If you go into some healing center, not a hospital, some healing center, that is a non-commercial activity. Much of what people do on a daily basis is non-commercial. But people have interjected themselves into commerce, yet they have no commercial activity going on. And because so many people do it, it is presumed that it is normal. It's not normal. It's a violation of people's human rights. Civil rights, if you notice, civil rights fall under the 14th Amendment. The reason civil rights fall under 14th Amendment is because civil rights is talking about company and company activity. That's why they don't call it human rights. And a company will never call a violation of liberty civil rights. Human rights, because as long they can't deal with, answer to, or hear human rights complaints. They can only hear civil rights. Civil rights is 14th Amendment activity because the 14th Amendment, as it is defined in the Black Law Dictionary, applies to corporations. It applies to corporations, so you have to know this so that you can comprehend what is being discussed. A civil suit into a district court. The people's obligation is to put the law on the table. But you have to first know the law in order to put it on the table. Our heritage is one of eloquent speakers of law on command or upon a challenge. That is our heritage. You will not go back into the archives and find proper and find someone else speaking on behalf of a Moor. Never, ever, not in a private capacity. Never does that happen. You will not find it at all because it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. We were far too well learned for that. And that's why Noble Drew Ali said, go back to the mindset of your foremothers and forefathers. Well, go back and see what? Go back and see how we handled our affairs. How, if there was a dispute, how did we handle that? Do you really think that if we had a dispute with another Moor that we handled it the same way foreigners, Slavics did? How in the heck could that be? When we taught them how to handle their affairs. How can we turn around and follow them when we taught them? And then today, we act like we can't separate a commercial activity from a non-commercial activity. The thing that we want to run away with is crap that modern Europeans threw in the trash, and we who call ourselves noble Moors went to the trash and pulled that mess out, and now we running around tooting it like you just came up with it today. We have to do better than this. This is ridiculous. You know what else? This is a really sad state of affairs for Moors. When you can go back into the chronology of time and see the same thing just repeatedly happening over and over and over and over and over and over, it just keeps on repeating itself. And Mom looking at this, and I'm like, well, goodness gracious. We don't see this trick yet. We don't see that we've been falling for the same trick for well over 100 years. What does that thing is? The trick wasn't even coming from foreigners. It's coming from our own people. But if you go back through the chronology of time, you will see it has always been our own family. Always. All of the battles that was fought, these battles were not fought between us and modern Europeans, between Moors and Moors. The civil war that took place was between Moors and Moors. And we enlisted the aid of the Slavic. It's right in the chronology. It's all we have to do is look. Noble Drew Ali said, come take your seat amongst the affairs of men. But people can't do that because they think taking your seat amongst the affairs of men is now I'm going to go do international commerce. How are we going to even talk about commerce when the family isn't even secured yet? The first thing we have to do is secure the family. Then we can talk about commerce once again when the family is working as a unit. But we don't have the family secure. So how are we going to talk about commerce, national or otherwise?
And it seems every so many...
The distraction that we are having and has been having since 2008, I am sorry to say, is that you have people who come in and talk new people especially into doing something that they're not prepared for. Huge cry of go save the people, save the people. So what happens? We stop putting back together or effectuating our infrastructure for our young and yet unborn. We stop doing that because we have to go and answer to the cries of people who were talked into doing stuff prematurely that they weren't able to stand. All across the nation, there's a huge cry going up. People are getting kidnapped. People are losing their homes. You know, they're losing their utilities are getting turned off. The resources, the basic necessities of life are being taken from them one by one by one by one. And when you talk to them, you find that somebody told them to do a commercial process. and they didn't even know what the commercial process was. They didn't know the ramifications of the commercial process, but they did it anyway. This, what Noble Drew Ali brought us, is not a commercial process. It has nothing to do with commerce. It has everything to do with the people's lineal descent bloodline. Lineal descent bloodline. Bloodline. Heritage. Heritage. Inheritance. Unalienable and inalienable. People don't even know what that means. If you're running around spewing commerce and things of a commercial nature, you are not talking inalienable and unalienable, because inalienable and unalienable is inheritance, and inheritance cannot be bought, sold, or traded. The language of the people is wrong, but they're being encouraged to continue down this commercial path that is only going to lead to their destruction. Because Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, study, 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 some of your own.
The favorite
some
one.
of your own.
I'm going to put you right back in
the reason he says to study, study, study is because some of your own. How did he know this? Because he had been experiencing it from 1913 when he started the Old Canaanite Temple and was teaching civics right up until the day he passed on in 1929. He already knew because it was there. You know what? It was there before him, it was there during him, and it's been there after him. Why?
All right, so now there might be go ahead.
Why is it? Why is that the case? Because Moors, you are a hard-hearted people. You've never done anything except by the point of a sword. And so what that means is he brought you everything you need to save a nation, but you will not take it and save yourself. You chase down commercial processes until you feel the sword sticking you in your backside. And I guess the people have not felt the sword sticking them in their backside yet, because they still running down commercial processes when he said, I gave you enough for a nation, now take it and save yourself. He didn't have to say a lot, but the little that he did say, it was enormous. And we Moors, we need to wake up. We need to stop following the same thing. Everybody's worried. Everybody's concerned about being punked. You're being punked right now. We've been punked for 100 years. More, really. We still being punked to this. We are not studying. We're not taking our time, and we're not meticulously reading and following everything that Prophet Noble Drew Ali brought us to save a nation that we can take to save ourselves. We're not following that, because all of this crap that people is pulling out from under a rock or out of the trash can, none of it is in the writings of Prophet Noble Drew Ali.
I'm laughing out loud. Sorry. That's what LOL means to me.
I'm going to end with this. I'm going to end with this. This I'm going to end with. People is running around here, and they're engaging. They are literally engaging in 14th and 15th Amendment processes. when the prophet said the 14th and the 15th Amendment is not necessary for the salvation of my people. I guess you ain't the people he was talking about if you're running around doing 14th and 15th Amendment processes. Because if you look at some of the crap you're running around trying to effectuate, the definition tells you who it applies to. And you are either interjecting yourself as a fictitious entity or you are creating fictitious entities that now must abide by the policies and the procedures of the 14th and the 15th Amendment. So you must not be the people that he was talking about when he said the 14th and the 15th Amendment is not necessary for the salvation of my people. And with that, I'll yield the floor.
Islam. Now, I just sent you a text, and I'm going to try, and I want us to try to explain that because people are going to think, oh, well, you said it's human rights, so why was the prophet teaching civics? Well, you know, the law is expressed through the civil law, you know, and everyone has access to, you know, to certain rights or human rights, no matter what. The deal is that, as you're saying, in commercial venues and corporations, they have to call it civil rights as opposed to human rights because they don't deal. Go ahead.
Well, there's a difference. There's a difference between civil and civic.
Civics for civilization. Exactly. So yeah, because I could just want to clear that up, and that would be then your that would be your interface as well with them. But instead, and you just said it, and something came to my mind as I was thinking about what you were saying about, you know, getting involved in commerce. Now, we saw this coming. It was like a slow, you know, it was almost like a slow boat ride to get to this point right here where Moors literally think, you know, that they're the foreigners, right? And that they're the subordinates. Right. Like, it's like, oh, we're going to be the subordinates now. Well, if you want to be the subordinates, then stop claiming. What that means is you're not going back to the mindset of your foremothers and forefathers, and you don't know. Like, the whole thing is that if we had knowledge, we would be able to see this stuff so easily, and we wouldn't be in these conditions. Period. Right. And then having these debates because what it comes out to be, as you have said, is a distraction. So here's a new distraction, and even if it was to be deaded tomorrow, not tomorrow because, you know, people are going to, you know, pick up on it. The next generation might pick up on this right here and bring that into, so there's another generation of doing bull crap without returning ourselves and to the mindsets of our foremothers and forefathers and taking our place amongst the affairs of man. Period. Because this is not going to let you do that. This is like play acting. Let's act out the play, you know. And I remember years ago, and it's going to happen one day, I always wanted to act out the play from the historical records where when the Sultan passed form and his son Hashim El, you know, took his place, and these modern Europeans was like, oh, they was just tripping all over themselves to make sure that he wasn't going to disavow the treaty or anything like that, right? That's all they wanted to know. And, you know, when you read it, you could just, like, see it. It just pops up at you. It's a perfect little sketch. So this right here is like doing a play acting without a ship, by the way, without merchandise, like reacting it, but taking the Moors and putting them in the subordinate position, like really. But what I wanted to say is that this was like a slow grind, you know what I mean? Like a slow moving boat to China, as they call it. And then you watch them say, yeah, well, you know, the birth certificate has us up on Wall Street. I remember that era. We're on Wall Street. And so I was talking to someone once, and they were telling us, I think we were in Pittsburgh, and I think Koja was there also. And they were saying, yeah, well, you know, they got us up on Wall Street. And we're looking at them saying, you are? I think you're standing right here talking to me. You know what I mean? So then after that, what about this stuff now that led straight to this treaty consulate stuff? Oh, yeah, they got us, this is classic. They got us, what did they say? In the sea, or what was that word they used? Got us,
they're out,
abandoned.
They're out at sea. Abandoned
out
at sea.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
That's old. That's old. That's some European what can I call it? Theory. That's a European theory that actually was around. Actually, because when I got into this information in 2008, they was winding down from promoting that.
Do you mean the Europeans were?
Yep.
Oh, no. Yeah, right. Because everything they do or try to do to be secured in that they are, you know, of the land or whatever, they find out it doesn't work. But the reality, I mean, is that back in the day, they might have been dead at sea because they may have left us in the middle of the sea or dumped them off or something. But it has no applicability to Moors at all. So you saw all the commercial jargon. And it just kept like chugga. We're going to get even, you know, the slow boat to China is going to pick up, and then pop out. Here we are. Let's have a consulate court and deal with the treaty. Well, what treaty? Here's a good question to ask. What treaty are you dealing with? It can't be the one that we know about because we are subordinates.
That's right.
In other words, if we can explain it, you have to have a treaty to deal with a consular court. So now, does that lead to, I don't know, this doesn't even make sense. I heard some people say, and I mean, I really asked them, and you know, well, we're going to be bringing the Europeans into the court. Like, really? You really think so? I mean, I don't know if that's what, you know, whose idea that is, or if it's really just, you know, hearsay, or, you know, because it's all confused. It's not confusing, but it's like out there, like, oh, we're going to do this, or we're going to do that. People don't even know what the heck they're doing. But what I find is the things that they think they're uncovering is, like you said, it's like a duh, and it still doesn't have anything to do with us. Now, what about the repealing? There was some mark about, oh, no, the what was it that they said is repealed, or is not repealed? I'm trying to remember what it was. If you recall.
Was, portions of Title 22, Chapter 2, Section 141, where it talks about consular court being repealed. And there was something that said, let me see if I can remember, something about, you know, any cases that were still open. And I'm trying to find it because I don't want to paraphrase.
Do you have
it was something to do with.
Let me see if I can find it. And then I'll read it, and then you can make that comment on it.
Yeah, it's the latter portion of, I don't know why I'm tripping. I could just type it in, Title 22, Section 2. Chapter 2. 41, 142. Here we go. In 1956, consular courts were repealed. Okay. And it says, and all pending cases were disposed of. Oh, no. related to general jurisdiction, criminal. It talked about any pending cases. And all pending cases were disposed of. Well, they were disposed of by 1960. And I think there was some presumption that all the cases had not been disposed of because you got Moors with open cases today. But for Moor, if you read the provisions that were established for consular court in 1860, I believe it was, right in the first paragraph, it says citizens of the United States. So
right.
Consular courts have been established around the world only for citizens of the United States because they're the only foreigners on this planet Earth. But you're not going to go to Mexico and find a consular court for Mexicans. You're not going to go to Venezuela and find a consular court for Venezuelans. You're not going to go nowhere where the Aboriginal indigenous people are and find a consular court on that landmass for the Aboriginal indigenous people.
Not going to happen.
Never going to happen.
So
doesn't exist.
So then, I mean, maybe I'm stretching this a little bit, but so do you think then that this effort, like you said before, it's always stuff that modern Europeans who are not Aboriginal anywhere on the planet are always trying something. Do you think that now they're just digging into, I know what we need? We need consular courts. And then they're convincing Moors to get involved and believe that for them, but it's still, how they pick up with the Europeans, because everyone has to now, confess their own, really. But do you think it's another effort, like they went through the UCC, like they went through the birth certificate redemption, like they went through the You're Lost at Sea commerce stuff, and that now they're finding their way to this? I mean, I'm trying to, and they're doing this to save the behinds, or think they're saving the behinds of modern Europeans. And I'm not saying that they're bad people, because there's a whole bunch of good ones, but I'm saying what would make Moors think that they would reduce themselves to the subordinate foreigners? Are they having like some friends that are modern Europeans, and so they figure, hey, let's go down this road? For them, I mean, is that what we're going to find in a minute? It's like, yeah, tried that. They trashed it. We picked it up type thing? Because that's what usually happens.
Well, you know what? Noble Drali, he said, my people suffer for lack of knowledge. If I can just get you to thinking, you would free yourself. So if you understand that consular court is for foreigners in somebody else's land, all right? And consular court was repealed because all of the cases that involved the people who those courts were set up for, which would be your U.S. citizen, all those cases were disposed. Now, unless claiming to be a U.S. citizen, right? And this is the conundrum, because, and this is something to think about. Now, this is Morocco. You have modern Europe. You have Moors who agreed to be U.S. citizens. They agreed with knowledge, because we have some turncoats who agreed to be U.S. citizens, and they may very well have today. However, consular court was still shut down because in the original 13th Bill of Rights, it says those of African descent cannot be U.S. citizens. They cannot be members, which means they can't be citizens, which means even if you wanted to interject yourself into the whole consular court thing, you can't, because it was never established for you. And if you would just think about this, if you would just think about this, you would realize this is not for you. In fact, what is for us, most of us don't even know, because we have yet to go back into the chronology of time to really see how our foremothers and forefathers, ancestors, and handled issues. Really, we don't have that. Tell you one thing. Whatever we was doing, we were prepared. We were vicious. And that's why, they used to say, I don't mess with Moors unless I have a very good defense team. Because Moors were so vicious with the law, not commerce, not statutes, not ordinances, not codes, the law. Nobody would mess with us. But over time, and you have Moors running around here trying to effectuate statutes, ordinances, and codes. I'm going to tell you right now, you didn't write them statutes, ordinances, and codes. And so they were not, and they can never be for you. And here's another thing. If you do figure out a way to use their statutes, ordinances, and codes against them, you will get one strike at that iron. One. Because tomorrow they will change that quick.
Because they are. Right. Exactly. Mhm.
All of these, like, if you go, I have statutes, well, codes, really, because the statutes, see, people be caught up in the code when you really need to check the statutes. But it doesn't matter, because they'll change the statutes, the ordinance, codes. I have statutes, ordinances, and codes from 2018 that I printed, and I'm so glad I did. They hurried up and changed them because people was using them to repel them. But every time they found a loophole, they would go plug that loophole by changing their wording. And if you go, and they're not even trying to hide it. Really, they're not trying to hide it, because if you go and you look at any of their codes, their statutes, ordinances, and codes, at the bottom, after you get to the last line, they have all the revisions that have ever been made to that statute, ordinance, and code. And if you meticulously read it, they'll say, oh, we changed this word to this, and we took out this and replaced it with this, and we erased all of that. I mean, it's there, right in the what could you call it? It's not the index, but it's at the bottom of every single statute. So you might have went in there and you said, like, for example, it used to be that they and they still do this. They define person, because according to Black's Law definition, person means a corporation. They used to have it where it said a person is a company, corporation, association, or a trust. And people was using it to say, see, it doesn't apply to an individual. So guess what they did? They added the word individual. But what they don't realize, people don't realize, is they define the word individual. And as it is used in their statute, ordinance, and code, individual means a U.S. citizen. And a U.S. citizen is still a corporation.
Mhm. That's the trickery stuff right there.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So this is why you can never use their statutes, ordinances, and codes, because you will only get one strike to use it, and tomorrow they will change it. That's why you have to use the supreme law of the land. You have to stick human rights. You have to stick with lineal descent bloodline, because that can't be changed tomorrow.
Islam, yeah, sorry, yeah. No, that I got I was on mute and didn't realize it. Yeah, that is what, we've been saying, but here's the deal. If you, like you said, if you don't know the law, you can't apply it. And this is why the prophet said, listen, no, enforce the Constitution. And that's another thing. I don't get it. It's like, back to what we're saying, like Admiralty lost on the sea. Well, Admiralty is under Article 3 of the document of the Constitution. Diversity of citizenship, Article 3. All treaties and engagements entered into prior to this Constitution, Article 6. You know what I'm saying? And then knowing the retainment, that's another thing about retainment of rights. Well, yeah, because, as we're saying, that means that those, it says it right in Bill of Right 9, those rights that are not enumerated cannot be denied, disparaged, or construed. So what does that mean? That means you have to know what they are and know not to have them denied. And the bottom line is people, most people, not all, just will not take all of this time they put into this other stuff to put into the knowing the Constitution and the law of this land. They won't do that.
That's
what
right.
Is that?
They don't. You know what? It's an intentional division. And I'll say this: I'm not mad at anybody who is putting out this stuff. I understand that they're just missing information. What I would love to see, and I believe this is what Noble Drew Ali has been trying. He's been trying to effectuate this. Muhammad tried to effectuate it. Yahshua tried to effectuate it. Every prophet that has come, Malcolm tried to effectuate it. They all tried to effectuate this. Some succeeded. Most succeeded. Every last one of them was infiltrated. Noble Drew Ali said this is the uniting of Asia. The key here is uniting. It's the family. This is the uniting of the family. So instead of Katie, what is already in place, which is a gross waste of time and energy, what we need to do is come together, find out if we can pool our resources. And our resources is our time and our energy, not finance. If we have things already in place, like we already have a field process in place, we already have a national identification in place. Those things are done. What we need to do is unite and build on a plan to get our schools, because we desperately need schools. We have young and yet unborn with no schools to send them to. We need to establish schools. But here's the thing. We need people who can teach in those schools. All right? So that right there is a huge undertaking. We need somebody who can be dedicated to, putting forth and finding, putting forth documentation as it relates to right to travel. We need a team of people that's going to work on just that. Nobody else needs to do that because we've already got somebody who's on it. We need somebody who's going to look into this whole pass the ship can pass. Has anybody pulled the statute that was written as it relates to the passport that the contractors today known as either Homeland Security is putting forth? They're the contractor. They're not a part of the federal government. They're a contractor. It's somebody who's going to be dedicated to look into these agencies that are abducting our children and holding them for income. And we need somebody who's going to research and effectuate things as it relates to the Internal Revenue Service. And that's just to name a few. We need somebody who's going to look into why do we not have enough housing? We got enough land. So we need people that's going to research those issues and come together as a unit, and then we all know, okay, so-and-so is handling that for them because they're handling that. I don't need to worry about that because it's being handled. And this is what I'm doing, and that's what that person over there is doing. That is how you raise up a nation. But I'm going to tell you the quickest way that you can divide a nation and make it fall is to have people doing the same thing and undermining each other. Undermining each other. Duplication of effort is a gross waste of time and energy. Gross. Vision that goes on as a result of it will consistently keep our nation where it is right now until such time as the prophecy is fulfilled. It's being fulfilled right now.
It sure is.
Because he already spoke. He already spoke of this division that is here still doing the same thing, and we still falling for it. They haven't changed anything. They don't need to. We keep falling for the same thing.
But at the same time, and it is like every generation or two, some big diversion comes in. But if the people were studied and had knowledge, they couldn't fall for it. They wouldn't fall for it.
Couldn't get in. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's everybody, I know everybody can reflect back. I know I can. When I first came into this information, and I can tell you that there were a few people who almost had me running down the wrong street. Almost. And they almost pitted me against my family, especially my sister, because, one of the big, this is the rise of the Moabite nation. You got to know that. So the key here is to make sure that the sisters are always divided behind some foolishness so that the Moabite nation can never rise. But it's the rise of the Moabite nation nonetheless. And rise she will.
Yes, she shall. Yes. And you know, that's the secret too. Oh, not the secret, but yeah, kind of the secret, because people don't realize that it's really about the rise of the family of the Moabite nation. So they dismiss the woman often, but that's part of it.
Yep.
Or behind the scenes, pitting them against each other all the time, especially if they're rising or if they're waking up. Got to do that, because that cannot happen.
That's right.
We could give you stories, but we won't. But that's how it happens, especially so. You know, and then with the rest of the people running around like chickens with their head cut off over egomaniac stuff, you know, and macho stuff, you know, that is also a diversion, because the nation is in her womb. So no matter how great you are, and I'm talking about the sons, if she's screwed up, the first schoolroom of the nation, of the child, is going to be screwed up, period. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's interesting. There was I skipped my mind what I wanted to speak about, comment on. So it'll come back to me in a minute. But yeah, it's
all right.
Yeah, I think it's time. Yeah, it's like 11:07, 7:11.
It is time.
How about that?
Time to take some callers. So if you have a question, comment, or a concern regarding what has been discussed, press 1 on your telephone dial, and we will begin to take callers. All right? So our first caller is Bakari.
Oh,
Islam.
Bakari.
Islam, are you there, Bakari?
Yes, greetings.
Oh,
greetings.
Okay, so.
Greetings in Islam.
Peace. Wonderful show. Wonderful comments. My goodness. Oh, my goodness. Thank you so much for being there. So I'll try to get in here and make my comments as brief as possible so that the other callers can get some time on the floor. And, you know, I just want to share with the family and anyone else who's listening that not all Moors are focused on these commercial processes.
That's right.
Yes, and not all Moors are looking forward to spending the rest of their lives arguing about things that cannot be confirmed. What do you mean, Bakari? I'll tell you what I mean. What I mean is specifically, you know, since 2013, when I started studying and I proclaimed my nationality, and I have heard many Moors, some older, some younger, argue about things that cannot be confirmed. And what I mean is, here's an example. Like, you know, when I leave this earth, when I pass form, you know, you can certainly, people can ask about, well, what was Bakari Bey like? And they can talk to family members, you know, if they're around, and they can talk to people who've, you know, run into me. But if you're a stranger and you don't know me, that doesn't mean that is true. It doesn't mean it's false either. But what you can confirm about me as a man, about my position on certain things as it pertains to my nationality and the condition that our people in today, is what I put on paper. And to back that up, which is even more important, is what activities was I involved in. I don't want my son or anyone that I care about to say I left this earth and all I did was argue, cuss, and fight about stuff, but I never wrote a writ. Or I never painted a building, or I never tried to teach a class, or I never tried to help another Moor. So, and I think that's where you have to start. Like, you have to start at your level. If you can, if you have the fiat and you can build it, then build it. Build a school. If you don't have the fiat but you can teach, then teach one, just start out with one guy or one child or one girl. So that is important to me. And I'm so tired. I am beyond tired of listening to people, whether I'm having conversations that are more concerned about whether or not, here's an example. Here's a perfect example, whether or not CMBey, and I'm not calling anyone out. I'm not, this is just one issue that has come about, with numerous Moors that I've spoken to us. I don't want to focus on whether or not CMBey got kicked out of the damn temple or not. I don't want to focus on that. No, what I want to focus on is, did he write anything? Okay, that is not going to do anything for the next generation, focusing on whether or not he got kicked out of the temple. I don't want to focus on these types of things that mean absolutely nothing. Because you weren't there. I wasn't there 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 70, 80 years ago. All right? But what I do have the capability of doing as an adult, as a grown man, is picking up a book and reading, learning,
looking at his work,
teaching myself. Right. Mm-hmm. Making myself a better man. And if I am serious about it, I'm not interested in putting up a YouTube page or a Facebook page or calling myself a grand sheik when I can't do long division, when I don't know how to write. When I can't write one paragraph with good punctuation and grammar, when I can't speak properly, I don't want to, I can't comprehend why is it that so many young brothers, because I haven't, well, let me stay on point here. What I can't comprehend is why there are so many young brothers who, when they open their mouth, it's obvious that they don't know what the hell they're talking about, but they just want to jump into it and they want to become a grand sheik, or they want to become the leader in some movement without putting in any work. Why? That is just not going to do anything for the nation. So to Anna Eve's point, when she mentioned that we need to come together and we need to do things that's going to benefit us collectively. And the other comment that I want to discuss, there's so many things that I'd like to touch on, but one of the other things that I'd like to touch on is this kind of worship that many of us seem to have for individuals, or for men or women or whomever it may be. I can respect people for doing good deeds. I can respect people and admire them for the work that they've done and the, things that they've put, things that they've actually written. But what I'm not prepared to do is to follow someone blindly. A couple of weeks ago, I mentioned this on the show. If someone is in the movement or in anything in life, involved in anything in life, and they've spent the vast majority doing good deeds, but then all of a sudden they just turn around and start doing stupid stuff, I can't let that go. That will eat away at the fiber of any institution, any nation. You cannot do that. You cannot worship people because of some persona that they may or may not have. What you need to focus on what works, what's factual, what's true, what did they really do. And when they cross that line of committing some sort of crime or some sort of negative activity, treasonous, and then they need to be dealt with. If somebody commits treason in the Moorish nation, regardless of who the hell they are or what they are perceived to be, they need to be dealt with appropriately. And anyone who can't comprehend that, they're not really involved, or they're not really thinking about being in a nation. They're not really fostering activity that would support and uphold a nation. Those are the type of things that easily allow infiltration and the degradation of unity. So I just wanted to, share that briefly. And it's just so sad. And this whole situation with this consular court thing, I've been looking at things a bit more and researching it. And there's nothing that I have found in black and white, some sort of ancient Moorish act. Now, I'm not saying that consular courts, or rather Moors, don't need to have their own venues where they can administer or address unlawful activity. That's not what I'm saying, because you can't have a nation without that type of activity. You must be able to disseminate law throughout the masses, and you must be able to hold individuals accountable. So if you're a Moor and you're standing up and you're talking and you're a grand sheikh or you're a chairman or you're some pundit or what have you, and you're not willing to do those things, then you're not for the nation. And so thank you very much for this time. Thank you for this wonderful show, and I respectfully yield the floor. Islam.
Islam. Thank you. Put something to my mind and slipping something I wanted to comment on what you said. And yeah, you were talking and you were mute,
I sure was.
That's your MO.
I know. And I was just, I thought I unmuted this caller, and I think just as I hit it to unmute him, they pressed 1 to come out of the queue. So I hope that the line is not open. But so anyway, let me go on to the next caller. Caller 702-272, you are on the air.
Islam Mothers.
Islam.
Peace and love. This is RVBey. I wasn't going to take too much of your time. I just wanted to comment on what Bakari was saying about everyone wanting to be a grand sheikh. I think that's true, that these people get a little bit of information and they jump online and they just want to tell the whole world. But the Prophet did say that not many will be saved, that the amount of people that will be saved, he could count them on his fingers and still have fingers left over. So I used to feel that way too when I was coming into the information, because it's so deep, and we've been in a daze for so long that when you wake up to this information, you just want to share it with the world. But I realized that the Prophet said not that many will be saved, and so the best way to help uplift the nation is not to try to save everyone else, especially if you're not studied on that level. I think that the best way to help uplift the nation is to help yourself, get yourself fully competent and cognizant in all areas, and then get your family, your immediate family, your queen and your children. That's how you uplift the nation. because once you do that, then you know that your children are going to pass it on to their children, and this is going to stop the cycle, at least in your family. So yeah, I just wanted to share that, and also I wanted to also emphasize what you said about encouraging incompetent Moors. Some of these people are encouraging incompetent Moors to jump into things that they don't know, and I think that Moors should put the brakes on that.
Yes.
Islam, thank you for giving me that time. I yield the floor.
Thank you so much for your call. All right, I had unmuted caller 612-845.
That would be me. Islam.
All right.
Can you hear me?
You're there. Yes.
I am. Thank you for taking my call. I will be very brief. You don't have to be. We got one more caller, and then that's it. We're done. Okay. Well, I'm looking for direction.
All right.
I'm looking for direction. Last year, I met a Moor. He's an older gentleman, very nice guy, but I've been looking for direction as to how I go about proclaiming my nationality. It's something that I'd like to step up to the plate and do. I have been searching on the internet, and there seems to be lots of information. Not all of it is accurate. It's hard as heck to talk to anyone. My mother, who is almost 80 years of age, when I started talking to her about Moors, she looked at me and told me her father told her they were Moors, but she never followed up on that. And as I go along and I talk to different relatives, they want information too. And it's like, I don't know which way to direct them. So I'm kind of looking for a way to speak to someone off the air and find out, how do I do this and how do I pass it on to the others that I come across, because we're all searching.
Wow, that's excellent. That's really excellent, because let me tell you, everybody finds this information because they're searching. And sometimes it's right under your nose. But you can't see it until you're ready, and you will never find it unless you're searching. It's not going to come and knock on your door. I mean, really, this is not Jehovah's Witness. Nobody's going to come and knock on your door.
No, I don't expect them to knock on the door. But as I said, there's so much information that's out here. People are putting out information. And you're not acquainted with the movement or what's going on. It's like, how do you know what's what? For the past year, I've been spinning my wheels. It's just like, okay, someone says do this, and then I love listening to the Grand Sheikh Taj RVBey. He warms my heart when I listen to him, because he makes sense, and then he shows me where I can find information. But that's as far as it goes, me watching videos of him and a few others, and it's just like, okay, what do I do from here?
Have you run across the RVBey Publications website?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Well, you're on the phone with RVBey right now.
Okay. Yeah. You know, I sent in 3 different forms. Okay, along with the self-addressed envelope. It was returned to me because it was missing pictures, and also my son, he did not sign his name; he printed his name. You know, and I did send out an email to, is it Anil L, and also one to RVBey. Okay, I'm so happy to make your acquaintance. But I sent out an email explaining what I had done. That was over a week ago, and I have no response. It's kind of like we Moors that don't know the way. It's kind of like we're searching and not getting much of a response.
Well, for instance, when you got that returned to you, it told you exactly what the reasons were, right? What
Yes,
the problem was. So did
Yes.
you put it back? Did you fix that and mail it back?
I did not mail it back because it asked for me to send. It said that it took the $25 fee or the $25 donation. Said I didn't need to send that back, but I needed to send something back to pay for postage, for return postage. I sent the $25. Pardon?
The postage on the return envelope.
That's it, right?
Yes,
the postage
and
on the return envelope.
The thing of it is when I put. Go ahead. When I sent everything, when I sent the package out, I sent a return envelope. I paid for the postage back. It cost you nothing to send it back to me because I sent you a self-addressed envelope. I have the receipt for what I spent for the return postage.
Well, you know
All
what?
right.
And you can speak to her about that, but like I don't like when people send me, they'll send me, and I do the cards, and they'll send a self-addressed envelope, and it does nothing because, first of all, the postage return back is free, and secondly, the type of envelope with the information that goes in it, they don't send the right envelope. So sometimes they'll do that, but if you're not requested to do that, But Annie, you can explain to her about what you were expecting. In other words, you don't have. She's telling you don't have to pay again, just the postage, because
I paid
the envelope.
Right, the envelope.
You know what? This is what I will do. Portion of the conversation offline. I can either call you after the show if it's not too late, or I can call you tomorrow.
That'd be wonderful. I didn't want to express this on the show. That's why I asked in the beginning if I could speak to someone offline, because it may confuse others, and I don't want to confuse others.
It does.
You know what? It's like the goal is to explain and return. But I can tell you, over the years, we've streamlined the explanation, and it's just and we just changed it. So it's just demonstrating that, and it's not any fault of anyone. It's just that we have to learn how to we need to learn how to express, and we need to learn how to decipher both things that we need to be able to do if we're going to put in any kind of a human rights claim. Because I'm going to tell you, and when we have to learn how these things that we are experiencing here, a lot of the times people their challenge is they don't have anybody to talk to help them figure this out. And That's understandable, because that's what we've been mentally conditioned to look for. Right?
Mm-hmm.
But
say
this. When you go into, if you're trying to put in a civil action, you're going to have to use every out there, not going to tell you anything.
No,
and so,
you're right.
What we try to do is we try to make the instructions as streamlined as possible so that everybody can get it right on the first go round. But we understand that this is all a work in process for everybody, and mistakes will be made. But I can tell you, from my own experience, I would rather make a $25 mistake than a $400 and $500 mistake.
I agree. I agree.
So
I agree.
So that's why, and that's why this platform is here. Like, this platform, it was this platform was originally established by Ra, and she originated it under the Moor Heritage and History School, and then we expanded it to MHHS Eyes Wide Open Blog Talk Radio, which is also which is part of RVBey Publications. And this platform here is to assist people in talking, because, you know, we say that, you know, cases with Moorish can only be heard in the Supreme Court. Well, you got to first get to the Supreme Court. And so once you get to the Supreme Court, what are you going to say?
Right.
What are you going to say? You know what I mean? Because, like, we have all of these people listening, and, you know, and always it's just like a handful of people who talk. But the talking is giving you practice in talking, because, you know, statistics show that public speaking is like second to death. That's how fearful people are of speaking in public. But we're Moors. That's our heritage. We're gonna have to learn how to venue right here is part of that. And, you know, and the instructions, as much as we streamline them, and we literally just changed them again yesterday.
Wow.
As much as we literally, we just did. As much as we streamline them, you know, it's still evident that we Moors, we still are learning. We're still learning. And there's nothing wrong with that. The fact that we are learning, and we're, you know, I'm just saying, we are learning. We're in catch-up mode, and so you know, that's what it's about. It's not a bad thing. To give the example, if you can remember, that what the little minor thing that we change, or maybe it's really not important. It's a matter of perception and how people read things, and so then you got to bring it to, all right, word it differently because someone will take it that way. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, if you don't say that, they'll take that way. And then trying to streamline it to that. But in, you know, I mean, well, it's hard because we don't really like to say certain things because we don't want to offend or whatever. We're not talking about you, but just certain things. And it's just streamlining to say, no, we wrote that and they think that means what? You know, it's like, wow, all right, write it this way. You know, and to cover as many perceptions or ways that people will read something and what they will get out of it. And it's kind of interesting. But as far as answering your question, along with what Annie's going to talk with you later, but as far as back to your question about how to or what to do or how to pass it on, that will be discussed also because it has to be passed on through family. But when you're on there looking for a process on how to do something, when the reality is it's about being who you are and understanding that first. It's almost the same as, this is why the Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, and I suggest that you get his works and read them and understand them, but he said that I've come to teach you to be yourself. And he said if you don't do anything else, if you don't do nothing else to declare your nationality, then, right. So that means be clear about it. Literally, it does. And then, you know, like in one of, I think it's Act 6, he says, but in these days and times, you Moors must also proclaim your national name. So, right. So first you got to be clear. Then proclaiming definitely entails something written, whereas declaring does not necessarily mean. That means that you're clear first. So the truth of it is that if being taught to be ourselves, then we have, because people ask me all the time, they say, well, once I get my card, my national card, and I got my proclamation, what do I do next? And, you know, my short answer is start being who it is
You say you are, which requires study so that you can know why. Because that has been what has been removed from us because we don't have the schools in all these years to teach that because we're going to other schools and they're putting it, out what they want to. They're talking about their history. They don't. Who in the world said they had to include us in it? They don't have to. They can write it any way they want. Even when they do, little misinformations or leaving stuff out. But it's not their obligation to have to teach us about who we are and to have to teach our children. We need to do it ourselves. So that's the answer is to, like you said, your grandmother said, yes, we're Moor. Your grandmother, right? So
no, it's my
mother.
Knew. My mother is almost 80.
Oh, your mother.
And yes, she remembers. Yep, she remembers when she was a little girl. Her father told her they were Moors, but we're talking back in the 30s, 40s. She had no clue as to what that meant, and she never bothered to look any further, So, yes, our history is missing. And no, the public school system is not going to give us our history. Why would they?
Exactly.
Let me say, I took down a two-hour documentary the other week, and I watch a lot of documentaries because I want to know. I want clarity for myself. But I never understood, and I know Columbus did not discover America, but there is a video that explains the reason why Columbus even came this way. I was always taught that he was trying to find India. He wasn't trying to find India. He was commissioned by Queen Isabella, and they were looking for the old world. But, nobody ever said that or explained it. But after watching it... Pardon?
I'm sorry. I'll help people caught what you said. You said the old world.
The old world. Yes, he was looking for the old world. And he thought he found it, or at least from what the video was saying. But the video was actually reading from a book. The person was reading from a book that actually came out, I believe it was written in 14 or 1500, and that right there, that stands with me because we're going back in history. It's not somebody that's paid to put information out here to indoctrinate a group of people. This is an actual book that was written back then, So to me, that holds a lot of value, and all of a sudden it changes my entire perspective as to what took place back then. I'm looking. I'm looking to learn my history.
Well, you know what? Check out. He has a couple books, and he also did some lectures before he passed form. But Ivan Van Sertima, he tells you some amazing information about this whole Christopher Columbus and discovering of America. And I've been trying to get the conversation, his lecture that he gave on the Congress floor. All right, that resulted in them changing their records as it relates to Christopher Columbus. And if you notice, they no longer have a Christopher Columbus Day.
Right.
They call it Indigenous Peoples Day. And that came about because of what Ivan Van Sertima presented on the Congress floor.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. And so what you can do is like Google. If you Google and check out YouTube, there's a couple of amazing lectures by Ivan Van Sertima. And then if you really pay attention, he will show you like his research partner was, I want to say, this French brother, Sheikh Jacques, I think it was. He also did some amazing research, but I love Ivan Van Sertima's spirit and the way he talks, because they do some serious research. They've all passed on. Ivan Van Sertima, Sheikh Jacques,
J.A. Rogers. Don't forget
all
J.A.
of them
Rogers.
have passed form, And the sad thing is there's nobody who's continuing the serious work that they did. Like Ivan Van Sertima did a lecture where he was older, but he said it. And I think, Roz, you may have that lecture, but it was a lecture where he flat out said the people who came and civilized the world are Moors. They're called Moors because, see, prior to once he got into his older years, I think he just didn't care what they did to him, because he was threatened that if he should call the people Moors, they would deport him.
Wow.
And he was a young man trying to, find his way in life, family and everything. And so if you look in his book, he calls the Moors African. But one of the few lectures that he did before he passed for him, he put it all on the table. He called them Moors. He didn't call them African. And he let you know that the amazing things that we have today is as a result of what the Moors did.
Okay. So did Obama.
You can Google him.
So did Obama did in his speech to Egypt. When he went to Egypt. Yeah, we booked that one.
Exactly.
And he mentioned, right. Oh, he laid it out too. It's funny though how people just ignore that and then run after. Yeah.
But you know, they don't understand. It's just like as I'm searching back and I'm listening to different video or taking down different documentaries. They're showing pictures. They're showing pictures of us back in the 14 and 1500s, and that all of a sudden changes your entire perspective as to who was on the land. You know,
that's right.
I purposely search for stuff like that because I want to know. So when I open my mouth and speak to others, I can tell you, no, there are pictures, and pictures speak louder than words, and they also speak louder than the history books that you have in your hand right now. That's not true history. Okay? So, like I said, I've been searching, and I've been diligent. I spent a lot of time looking, listening. Some of the videos, they're worthless, some that I see. You know, it's just like you can tell this is a con job. They're leading you nowhere. But then again, I watch a lot of documentaries, okay? Documentaries that have some weight to them. And that's what's been pushing me, because my family is scratching their head going, you've lost your marbles. And I'm like, no, I haven't. There's something to this.
Found them.
More, they're real. Yes. But, I have
marble.
You found them.
Indeed. But I'd like to be in contact with some Moors that are here in Minnesota, if there are any, because I have nobody to talk to.
Listen, the prophet said if you're the only one, be the only one, and go on that road. And when you go on that road, you will find others in the same direction. You know, and I always use this analogy of, it's like Dorothy in the Wizard of Oz. They told her to go down the yellow brick road. She had to go down that road by herself. But a lot of people, this is my new analogy now, are sitting at the beginning of that yellow brick road that is their journey, waiting for somebody to pick them up and take it down that road. Once you go down that road, you'll find everything you need. And again, you'll find others that are in the same direction. So you gotta just go down the road, and if you're the only one, be the only one at that time. But you are not really the only one at all. It's just that we have to come together. Like you saying, I wonder if there's any Moors in Minnesota. I guarantee you there are. The Moors are everywhere. And so, we know that literally, but as far as conscious of who they are or whatever like that, and being active, instead of passive, that's going to be a discernment you're going to have to make yourself upon whoever you meet upon the path. You're going to have to do that, and you're going to do that by gaining the knowledge yourself, and going on this path of information.
All right. Well,
we're going to be in contact with you. Oh, go ahead.
Please do, and thank you much for taking my call and taking the time to speak with me. I appreciate the work that you ladies are doing. It means a great deal.
All right.
All right. I just sent you a text.
Okay.
I just sent you a text.
I want to ask her a question. What email did you? I'm just curious because I'm just trying to do a little synopsis. Because usually when anyone emails me about proclamation sealing, I have a canned message. Well, I've canned it so that I won't have to keep typing it, and it sends them. It tells them to email the email that's on their processing form. And when you email to the email that's on your processing form that handles the sealing, which is Anna Eda you're talking to, you get an automatic return with a phone number that you can text to directly or call. So I just wanted to know what email did you send to with me, because I try to make sure I send those out with at RVBey.
Email
if you don't remember.
I don't have a problem with it. The email address that was on my form and that I also sent from was morewealth@protonmail.com.
Okay.
Morewealth, M-O-R.
Okay, see, now the Spirit told me to ask you that for a reason, because divine law governs all events. That's not us. That's somebody that's doing their own thing. And there are people out there. No, that's your address. Oh, that's your email. Yeah. No, I'm asking you, what email did you mail to with RVBey?
Hold on, I'm going to give you that. I'm opening up. It looks like GSNAMA7@gmail.com.
All right,
and
that's the right
the
one.
Other one that I sent it to, let me find it. Give me just a second, please. It's coming up. It's RVBey Publications with an S @gmail.com.
Yeah, I know a lot of people are getting hung up on that because that's not the right email. I do the cards, RVBey Nat card @gmail.com, and RVBey orders that deals with the books. So, all right, I just wanted to know that. I got to fix that.
If I got it wrong, my apologies, No,
that's not your fault. No, that's fine. But the GSNAMA, that's the one you would use for the proclamations. Because if they come to me, I don't have status on them. So I'm just going to refer you to that email. So people just need to use that email that's on the processing form. And it would say, because sometimes people will I'm not saying that's you, but they'll send to every email they can. And they think that's going to work, but what it does, it causes us to do more work. But
bingo.
Yeah, been there, done that. All right, peace and love, sis. Oh, I'm sorry.
Peace and love to you. Shalom, ladies.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much for your call. Wonderful, wonderful. And we'll be talking.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. All righty. Let's see what we have here. Let's see. Oh, I'm not sure if Bakari, did you want to say something again?
Yes, Mother. Yes.
Oh, all right.
Yes, and pardon me, but I heard that you said earlier that there weren't too many other people in the queue, so I wanted to add something, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very, very much. One of the things that I want to add here briefly, it's to individuals or Moors that are coming in and seeking guidance. Just a couple of quick things that I would like to share. And this is coming from my own experiences. This is not coming from what somebody else told me. Mm-hmm. One of the first things that I would say, and I want to say it through kind of like an analogy. If you have a home and you need some carpentry work done, would you just go out and just pick some guy up off the street, or would you just, if it wasn't some guy off the street, or would you just, even if they looked professional, they had on, they looked like they'd, been working in the industry for a while, and they said they were, and they said that they were the greatest carpenter in the world. Would you ask them for references first, or would you just accept their word and just go with them, or would you look for others? So what I would say is that Moors, don't just listen to people that sound good. If somebody is telling you or selling you a packet or some sort of process for you to get involved in, I would strongly suggest that you ask them if they've done it. And if they have done it, look for proof. Don't take their word for it. That's number one. Because if you do that, if you don't do that, then that's kind of like, kicking yourself in the behind. Again, let's go back to the homeowner. If you are, I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but, if you want somebody to do some work on your roof or your foundation, you better do some due diligence. Don't just take people's word for it. And one of the biggest problems that I've heard years and years ago for business owners, first-time business owners, and again, this is an analogy, all right? One of the biggest problems for businesses that fail in the first 5 years are individuals, Moors or people who attempt to open a business with a family member, and they don't do their due diligence, they don't read, they don't do their research, and then they get issues, people get in their feelings, and it fails. All right? Don't make assumptions. If you want to be successful, do the due diligence. Do some of the basic things that you need to do. Don't just listen to somebody and follow what they're telling you just because you see them talking. Ask questions. If you don't ask questions, you won't be able to make sound decisions. Another thing that I would strongly suggest for Moors is that use your ears, eyes more than your mouth when you first come into this information. All right? I mean, that's what you should be doing. You should be asking questions, listening to what your responses are, taking notes, and doing less talking. Take that information that you've taken notes on, take those questions and the responses that you got from the Moor guy or the Moor girl, go home, sit down, and think about it. Do some study and come back to those answers and think about it again. Do some more study and then ask some other Moors. Don't just stay in one lane, okay? Don't do that. My experience has shown me that you will get one aspect of a very complicated issue, and you're going to hurt yourself. You're going to hurt yourself. Just think about these things. Stop getting into the entertainment mode where you just look at, entertainers. Oh, he's got on this nice dress, or he's dressed so well. He's got a nice car, and he's got a nice home, and he's got millions. But you go home, and his home life is terrible. You don't know how these people live their lives. And what's really interesting is that we seem to not be able to transfer these basic concepts that some of our parents told us about when we were little when it comes to this movement. Some of these people that you hear talking as Moors, and I'm sad to say it, but it's true, they're very charismatic, but there is no substance there. The other thing that I would like to briefly touch on is just because a Moor has knowledge in one specific area does not mean that that individual has knowledge in all areas. Well, here's what I mean specifically. On several occasions, I've dealt with individual Moors, and they were very intelligent in one particular area, but they couldn't write. Like I've been sent information, and it was all garbled and not formatted properly. It was just terrible. So don't make assumptions. Don't make assumptions, because this is about your life. People are being killed. We already know where we are in the world today and what's happening, but this is serious. And if you take it for granted that some Grand Sheik guy or some Grand Sheik girl or whatever their title are is just automatically going to be there for you, then that's not very intelligent. Furthermore, it's not practical, and there's a lot of history to substantiate what I'm saying. So that's the other thing. The last thing that I would like to briefly touch upon is that, it's very interesting that in schools, from elementary, junior high, even pre-K, elementary, junior high, and high school, the vast majority of the teachers are women. But for some reason, there are very few teachers within the Moorish movement that are women. Certainly, Anaid and Ras Maya are, two. And I often wondered whatever happened to people like RVBey and some of the other sisters that were mothers, rather, that were here 10, 20, 30 years ago. What happened to them? Why did they stop? Did they stop because of, life, and they just started having children and, or things happened? Or did they stop because they ran into too much of the masculine ego effect, this patriarchal mindset that seems to permeate through many of the, areas around Northwest Amexem? Because there is that aspect. And as a man, it saddens me. So we need more women. We need more mothers. And I was very happy to hear this woman who just called in. And I just want to say that, that as a man, if you come to a lodge, or you come to any institution, a club, a lodge, like a gym, a temple, a Moorish Science temple, and men are treating you in a subservient manner, and they're not answering questions, and they're coming off to you with this kind of authoritarian type, patriarchal manner, you need to get out of there ASAP, because no good is going to come of it. And so hopefully in the very near future, be more and more women who are taking this information and doing work. Because from what I have seen in a short time, and I'm sorry to say this, a bunch of disorganized, ego-driven, testosterone, filled individuals that are getting on YouTube, cursing, fighting with each other, debating things that absolutely will do nothing for the next generation, absolutely will do nothing to build a school, to, set up anything. And so don't get me wrong, I like being a man. I'm a man, and I'm happy in my masculinity, but I know my lane. I know my strengths. And it's unfortunate that we have this where so many people that I've talked to and had consultations in the past 4 years, 5 years with, or actually more like 3 years with, quite often many of them expect me to come out and tell them, well, we're going to jump into this, and we're going to do this process, and we're going to do this, and no, that's not how I operate. That's not how I function. If I ever do a consultation, and certainly some people can attest to this, I'm not concerned about allodial titles. I'm not concerned about birth certificate authentication. I'm not concerned of anything, whether it's a negative process or it's a positive process as it pertains to our upliftment. What I'm concerned about, can you help yourself, and can you get to a place where you can help one person, where you can give one person good advice? Can you display some form of consistency in what you say and what you do? Can you love another Moor? Can you be a positive role model not only to Moors but to other nationalities? See you on this continent. Can you do those things? Because those are the things that are going to build a nation. Those are the things that are going to put us in a place, as Anna Ede mentioned earlier. Those are the things that are going, like you can't put the cart before the horse. Like you can't get to infrastructure before you have unity. It doesn't work that way. It does not work that way. There is no other instance on this planet, even with the colonizer. Once the colonizer got the unity thing together, they were rocking. As soon as they got that unity thing together, then they started putting out proclamations. Then they started putting out declarations. Then they started building up their military. They started doing all of these things, but none of that stuff could manifest until they had unity, until they had a singular purpose to function with. I yield the floor. Islam.
All right, Islam.
Yes, I hear what he's saying. Do you have another caller? Because I want to share something that was just okay.
That is the last caller.
Okay, I never do this on the air without discussing with you first. But now here's the new thing going on. All right. While watching the video, it doesn't matter who did it. Last night, the statement was made that a Gregorian calendar date on a document puts it back under the jurisdiction of the corporation. If this is true, then the ID that I received less than 2 weeks ago is worthless, since it has my Gregorian birth year. I just believe that those issuing the cards would take care of anything contrary to the purpose of the card that would not be on it. What do I do now? Now, she watched a video of someone who said that, and now, and now the cards are no good because they don't have a Gregorian. I mean, they don't have well, actually, my question was, well, which calendar would you like to use? I mean, if they wanted to use one, because I've had people who have done that. And I'm like, you know how to defend that date? So it's a matter of what you can present and uphold and do. It's not that important in that respect. People who do documents sometimes will use both. They'll put whatever the year is and say 1947, and then they'll put 1947 CCY, and then 1367 MCY, which of course is not going to go on an identification card. But then I have put that on there if people want to defend, if they want to do that. But this is the new thing now. The cards are no good because it has my Gregorian birth date. What in the, this is what has been put out now. So I mean, I just, that's up to you. If that's what you want to do. If you can defend that and explain that. Well, how do you want to use your card? For what reasons is what this person would have to understand. So let me see. I don't know. You any comment to that?
No. No, I don't. No. Mm-mm.
Okay, did you just get my text?
Oh, yeah.
So the interesting thing is that the time is the degrees. The time is told by the sun and the moon. That's for sure. There's all kinds of calendars. There's all kinds. You have Julian, you have Gregorian, and those are Christian per se. You have Islamic, and you have different people who have different Islamic whatever times, different moon cycles, different times. We used to actually wear watches with the times of 3 different planets. So, it's like I know when we do documents sometimes, you may do the MCY, CCY, or whatever like that. It's really up to you. So I guess it's something I deal with. I have to deal with it on an individual basis if that's where you are in your studies. But anyway, moving right along.
All right. Well, you know what? It's after midnight, and
is it?
Yeah, it is. And so we will be at the National Theater tomorrow. Make sure and stop in if you're in the area, and if you're not, then you can listen. Just call this Blog Talk Radio, and you can listen to the class. Yep, that's it for this week. And so I want to thank everybody for their comments. And I want to thank everybody for participating and building. And please make sure that you're studying, because when you get this information and you make changes, you have to study. You're not prepared to challenge anything. And you need to know how to research, and you need to know how to find information, and you need to know how to use that information. So remember that it's nice to know what your lineal descent bloodline is, but the other piece of that is the law, and you need time to study the law in order to enforce the law. So don't let anyone bully you into doing anything premature. Take the necessary time to study. Please, trust me, it will save you a lot of unnecessary conversations and situations. So with that, again, thank you so much for listening, and we shall see you tomorrow for Moorish Heritage and History School. Islam.
Islam.
Come along, yeah, and dig my song. Too much wagonist, too much antagonist. Wolves and leopards are trying to kill the sheep and the shepherd, yes. Wolves and leopards are trying to kill the sheep and the shepherd, yeah. Too much informers, too much steel bearers. Too much informers, too much steel bearers. Time to separate the sheep from the wolves. We're at the crossroads, and this is the time of decision. Too much informers, too much steel bearers. Too much informers, too much steel bearers, yeah. Whoa, yeah. Too much watch and peep. It's time the wolves them leave the sheep. Too much watch and peep. It's time the wolves them leave the sheep. Wolves and leopards are trying to kill the sheep and the shepherd. trying to kill the sheep and the shepherd. Wolves and leopards are trying to kill the sheep and the shepherd. Yeah, too much watch and feed. It's time the wolves them leave the sheep. Too much watch and feed. It's time the wolves them leave the sheep. Lion. Too much. Time the